Hey, what's up, everybody? Video 44 coming at you another video. All right, so gonna talk a little basketball. Congratulations to Trigger Murphy, Trey Murphy III from the New Orleans Pelicans. He got a 4-year, $112 million deal. That's $28 a year. I personally think that his game and what it is that I believe he can do will make it so that's a good contract. But based on how the Pelicans have utilized him and the injury issues coupled with that, it isn't a great contract. It ain't. It's almost like Devin Vassell in a way, but for different reasons. Like, I expect Devin Vassell to be fantastic when he's available, but he's always hurt. Not as much about the usage in comparison, but just in general, when I look at the type of player that those two are, and I look at the type of contract that is, can they make you feel great about paying them that what they're making? Yes. Are the teams they're on likely to be able to utilize them up into that usage rate, into that value? Not based on what we've seen. And then they both have the injury issues that make it worse. So I don't love the contract for as long as it stays with the Pelicans. Now, if they can move it to a place where they actually gonna let him be the starting shooting guard or small forward, then it becomes a much better contract, in my opinion. Or if they move some players around so he can have the usage rate that you expect for him to have, yeah, he's going to be good. He's going to be worth probably more than that. And see, that's what it really comes down to. A lot of times when I see bad contracts signed, I don't really have so much belief in the player, especially belief that they can exceed the value of the contract. In this case, I actually do. I'm a big fan of Trigger Murphy. I actually think he's probably worth $30 million a year if given the opportunities that he hasn't received. That doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to pay him that if I can't provide him those opportunities. You see what I'm saying? That's really what it comes down to. I think that contract's going to look a lot better if they send it somewhere else. And I don't think they're going to shave off what they need to shave off to give him those opportunities. I don't think so. They do have to move Brandon Ingram, but that probably ain't the only thing they need to do. To be honest with you, to give him an opportunity to make that contract look good, they're going to trade a couple people. You understand what I'm saying? So, and they got Hawkins on the team. They got CJ on the team. You got, all different types of players that are high usage. He's just one of them. And for him to make that much money, it's not a bad thing for me as far as what he deserves, because I think he's a really, really good player who's going to play up that level. But I just don't think that he's going to be able to showcase that with the Pelicans, especially with Hawkins on his tail. That's what it comes down to. And so now they're going to do to Hawkins what they did to Trigger, and he ain't going to get those opportunities, even though we know Hawkins is one of the best shooters on the planet, probably has some intangible things in his game that makes him good enough to be a starter in certain situations in a year or two. But I don't think that he's going to get that opportunity, because now they got to try to push in Trigger. So it's like, for me, I personally want the Pelicans to move Brandon Ingram and move CJ McCollum. Maybe not right away in regards to CJ, because I don't know if Hawkins is quite ready to step into it right now. But that should be the plan, is to move both of them bad contracts, or potential bad contracts, with B.I. having not signed his yet, wanting so much. And then let Hawkins and Trigger have the 2 and the 3 spot, respectively. And you got to understand, they got even more talent now to consider. They brought in DeJounte Murray, of course. Alvarado's not getting any worse. He's really not. He's so much better than the role that he's in my opinion, potentially. So it's like, I think the Pelicans are a team that has a lot of talent, but I don't really know if I love the direction they're headed in, because I don't think the talent fits together very much. Just like we say a lot of times about certain teams. Can you put your very best stuff on the floor the good majority of the time? Or you're going to have so much good in the same position over and over again, and then find yourself still playing players that are not very good or out of position in other positions, which is what the Pelicans got going on. They got one single center on their roster, and that's the rookie they just picked up, Yves Messi, who I think is going to be a hell of a center someday, maybe even right away. He might be an MVP, not MVP, but a Rookie of the Year candidate if he gets the type of usage that they will probably have available to him at that center position. Very dark horse for Rookie of the Year. I don't think he can actually get it, but the usage is there because they don't have anybody else to actually play that position at all. And then they got like all these small forwards and shooting guards. It's like if you just move a couple of those shooting guards for a legitimate center, then you can have a little more balance on your team, not really give up any of your talent equity, because you just bring back a center as good as those shooting guards and small forwards are. You see what I'm saying? In theory. So I just think they double down on too much of the same thing. Sort of like I say about the Orlando Magic. Tripling down on point guards and not being happy with any of them, but they're all really good. It's like, move some of that. Bring yourself what you need. Upgrade some areas that don't have as much talent and stop tripling down on really good players in the same position. I know it's hard to move around now. When you identify that problem with this CBA, it's hard to move around. I get that. But there are teams out there who really need to upgrade in talent. There should be some ways to make it work. The CBA is very difficult, but it's not impossible. People just have to do the hard work of matching the salaries and following the rules within it. Not everything is going to be possible, but I think there should be more possible than what we've seen. That's what I will say. It should be more possible than what we've seen. And again, I really genuinely think that the NBA should opt out of that thing at the end of the season. I understand that they signed it 2 years ago with a third-year opt-in, opt-out option. They should opt the hell out of that CBA. That CBA is terrible for the movement of players and ultimately for team management. It's just bad. It's really bad for that. And so, yeah, I think the Pelicans might be dealing with a little bit of that, but they can sure use a trade or two, shake up some of the same position problems that they have, I guess is what I'm saying there. So giving Trigger that contract could be great if they have a plan to get out from under that process. If they don't get out from under that process, that contract isn't good, especially if his injury issues continue to pile up. It isn't good. You love having that type of weapon on your team, but it isn't that great. And I'll tell you something else. I could be dead wrong about this. I love Trigger Murphy's game, but I do think that you're starting to get to a point where the value he has as a potential elite shooter is starting to get drowned out by more shooters that are coming into the league. I look at a guy like Dalton Knecht. The presence of a Dalton Knecht is kind of the evidence that I have of that. When Trigger was drafted, it wasn't no Dalton Knecht out there that you can look at and say, okay, he's going to be an elite shooter at that position too. You know, to kind of pair up the market. I think the uniqueness of Trigger's elite shooting ability and size and position and length kind of made you look at, especially that he was drafted later in the first round, kind of made you look at him as like a rarity. But I think slowly but surely more of those type of players are coming into the league. Not to say that you don't need Trigger, or that at this point you need to be just saying, all right, well, we can find him anywhere. But what I'm saying is the rarity that he was, as we go forward, may not be the rarity that he'll be. And we've said that about other players in other positions too. But that Trigger's one of those guys, man. It's like we're starting to find elite shooters coming more and more into the league. So it's to where you would say Trigger Murphy going to one day be the greatest shooter of all in the game or something like that. Now you got to say Trigger Murphy going to be amongst the next level of elite shooting that should be found plentiful. Does that change how I view him? I mean, I think it has to. I think that's what I'm trying to say. I value him like crazy. But now all of a sudden you got another couple of shooters coming in at his size, height, and position and make you just say, do I really have to pay him $112 million for 4 years before he is able to prove to me that he's worth $28 a year? When I know that I can find that piece elsewhere? Maybe it's the idea that he's more rare that makes it so that that piece is so valuable, unproven, if that makes any sense. So that's kind of what I'm looking at there. I'm not sure. How you doing, bro? All right. So that's how I'm looking at that situation. I'm a fan. I think he's going to be fantastic, but his injury issues make me look at that contract and say, hey, if they shaved off $12 million, you know what I mean? I might feel a little better about it. Make it even 100 for 4 years. I feel a lot better about it. I don't know what the option situation is. Maybe he has options on the end of that contract. Maybe he doesn't. I don't know. So there's some things there that I don't know. You know, it might be a team option. Maybe that might, who knows? So that might make a difference. But yeah, man, I don't love that contract with the Pelicans right now. And I don't really know if I love the Pelican situation, period. I think that they're a team that could potentially be talented enough to be considered a contender. But I don't know if I like the fact that they have so many guards, so much shooting, and only one legitimate center on the roster. It's craziness to me. I understand they didn't want to re-sign Jonas Valanciunas. Probably not for 15 a year, maybe not. Not with their circumstance. I think that drafting Yves Missi was obviously a need, and I think it's a damn good center to have. If he's the only one you got, you definitely like a piece like that. But I don't know, man. I'm of the mindset that the Pelicans really need to do some shifting with that roster, man. I know they got a good GM in place. David Griffin is pretty solid, but they're going to have to do some shifting around. They can't go forward with the same roster and expect to get a good return on value of that contract they just signed. Not for that first year, no. No, right now, I could argue Trigger Murphy's probably a $15 million a year player in that situation. And, you know, I mean, I think a guy like CJ can get them something on the trade market. I don't know that they have any interest in moving CJ, but I don't look at him as a negative asset, even with a really strong contract, because he's had a hell of a career shooting the ball. He's a leading guy, and if a team needs an offensive talent that can go for 40 points on a good night, CJ McCollum is a good bet to be able to do that when healthy. It's not the greatest bet to stay healthy, but at this point, you look at him as an all-star talent. I don't know that his all-star days are behind him if you give him a high-usage opportunity. So I'm probably moving him to like the Clippers or something like that, where they could use a talent like that, or Orlando, where they've always wanted a talent like that next to their guards, and try to see what I can get on the market for CJ as an addition by subtraction to ultimately put them in a position to have more of what it is we've been talking about. They could use another center. They could use another power forward behind, who could play the center position as well. They could use somebody, a Jabari Smith-like piece, something like that next to Zion and next to Jones. So I like what they have. I just don't like it all slapped together, and I don't like it making the amount that it's making, eating up the cap in the way that it does. If all of those players were on fantastic contracts, entirely different conversation, because then you can slap more next to it and make it even greater. But that they a stranglehold to certain contracts and the way that it's constructed in that manner, I just don't think makes them the best team they can be right now. I don't think so. So David Griffin has some work to do. He's one of the good ones out there, so I'm pretty sure he'll figure it out. But this is the situation there in New Orleans. So yeah, man, that's what I'm looking at there. What else? What other team situations am I looking at? My Lakers, man, Quincy Olivari. Glad we gave him a two-way. Saw the beginning of another interview with him. He's just a infectious young personality, man. Really good vibes about that kid. Comes across on the airwaves very, very smoothly, man. He might even have a career in media when he's done playing basketball. The smile and everything, man. He's got what it takes to really get people to root for him without even trying. I don't think it's minor. When you look at a guy who has a certain it factor as it pertains to personality, and then having a big market opportunity like the Lakers, I think those things go hand in hand. And teams like the Lakers are looking for players like Quincy Olivari who have a natural charisma about them and a certain root for him type of energy attached to him. It's not going to take long before all of Laker Nation is rooting for this dude in a different kind of way. He just has a quality that most people don't have. And he can really ball. And even though he's a 6'3" guard, which is considered small, he's on the bigger side of 6'3" in my opinion. He looks bigger than 6'3" to me on a basketball floor. You know, he really does. He in fact, I call him a big guard. Doesn't necessarily mean he's tall, but low center of gravity, very good shape. Probably can hold his own against people a little bigger than him in a lot of situations because he's going to be in better shape than them. That's something I don't underestimate as well. When a guy says he ran cross country throughout high school, you know, he's going to be in better shape. And this is the business of having injury issues and players, you know, not necessarily taking care of their body in a lot of situations. You pay him $200 million and he control his weight and stuff like that. You get a guy like Quincy Olivari, who is an all-world runner who can run all day, all night. Players like that, if they can ball, really do well. You know, who comes to mind is a guy like Rip Hamilton. Rip Hamilton was an all-world defender. But what made Rip Hamilton special was the fact that you can keep him on the floor for 48 minutes for 82 games with a mask on, and he's chasing around the best players in the world, and then on the other end doing what he needs to do in transition, hitting shots and all this. It's like, you can have a career like that, you're gonna win championships. And it starts with having the type of conditioning that they both have, which was, I don't know if Rip Hamilton ran cross country or not, but you can certainly bet that he could run a marathon probably better than 90% of the people in the league at the time. And it's a good bet to probably be able to run right now if he has to, because that's just the type of genetics he provided. You know, so it's like, I think of a guy like Mikal Bridges, Mikal in New York. Just run all day, defend all day, and then hit shots. Both of the guys that I referred to are bigger and longer, so in theory you don't want to compare them necessarily to him, but this the type of conditioning we're talking about. And you talk about what you're looking for in the NBA is players who can condition themselves to be able to run all day and be able to compete on both sides of the floor. I think Quincy Olivari has shown us that he has both of those qualities. So I think his upside is higher than people think. I personally don't think he's a G League talent. I think he can use some G League time, just like a lot of rookies can. But I think from what I've seen, he's a guy who probably should be in rotation somewhere and will earn his spot if you give it to him. He ain't going to be the worst guy on this Laker team. We know that already. So I don't think that the end game for the Lakers, and I said this in my Laker video yesterday, I don't think the end game should be to keep him in the G League. I think the end game should be to try to shave off some of the guys that we know he's better than and put him in those positions that they're in. I think that's probably the move. But at least the Lakers have control over his rights for now, and they can hold on to him at least for another 2 years with this two-way contract process. So you can tell he wasn't happy with it. I'm not going to even lie to you guys. He's happy that he's held on to his position, but he also knows that there's a lot of work to do, as he said, in trying to make a team. And there's still a lot of grinding to do from here. And I think he, like a lot of us, believe that he probably shouldn't be working as hard from this point to try to get on the roster. Because again, he's better than half the dudes that we saw in that Golden State Laker game on the Lakers side of things. He's just better than people. And the fact that they have good guaranteed contracts makes it so that his path is more difficult. And that may not necessarily be fair. So that's really what it comes down to. He shouldn't really have to be in the G League for any extended period of time contractually. Some of our other guys should probably be in that situation, to be honest with you. So that's what I'm thinking there as far as the Lakers side of things. Definitely excited about Dalton Connect. I was listening to some people talk about who they think would be good people to have as Rookie of the Year candidates, who they think can make a Rookie of the Year. There's a couple players that I come to mind with that who have good opportunities to showcase what they can do. I think one of the names that I haven't heard was the name I just put up from the Pelicans, Yves Messi. And that's only because I don't think most people think he has a bunch of intangibles. But I think he's a guy who's probably a good bet to stay healthy throughout the course of the season, because he's a big guy in fantastic shape with nobody else to play his position. So I just think he's going to be on the floor a lot. A lot of people think Zach Edey. I think Zach Edey's an excellent candidate for that as well, because Zach Edey is going to be on the floor a lot for the Memphis Grizzlies in a high usage opportunity situation. The problem is with Zach Edey is he's already shown me that there could be some injury concern issues. I look at him as more of a traditional big guy, as to where a lot of the big guys in this league right now, I don't look as traditional, like Wemby and those guys. He's more along the lines of the centers who I genuinely worry about as it pertains to how they're built and them having foot injuries and stuff like that. I think that, a lot of these guys, the ones that people worry about when it comes to that may not be the ones you need to worry about when it comes to that. And I think that now that they're starting to settle into the idea that 7-footers are built different and you don't have to worry about that, some of these guys that are coming in, you do have to worry about that. And I think Zach Edey's one of the ones you do. Foot injuries, leg injuries, stuff like that. Zach Edey is not built, in my humble opinion, to sustain those type of issues. He ain't built like that. He's a good conditioned athlete who is used to high usage in college. But as it pertains to how his physical build is, if he starts having foot injuries, it's going to keep him out for 30, 40, 50 games, out for the season type stuff. That's why I don't think he's going to win Rookie of the Year, because I don't actually expect him to make it through 82-game schedule if they're going to continue to use him the way expected to use him. I don't think so. I really don't think so. I think Yves Messi's actually, to me, he looks like he's built more so for the type of shape necessary to get through a long season than Zach Edey or Donovan Clingan. Clingan's a guy who, if he were in that center position by himself, I'd give him as good odds as Edey to win it. But because he has Ayton to deal with, and not only that, but the Blazers are likely going to be a very bad team this year, I just don't think it's a great bet to expect Clingan to win Rookie of the Year either. Stephon Castle, I think, is interesting, but I think his potential shooting limitations are going to kind of slide in behind some of these guys. Plus, it doesn't look like San Antonio's just going to give him the keys to that guard spot that he wants. You got Chris Paul in place, still got Trey Jones in place. I don't think that Stephon Castle will likely look as good as maybe he would look if he would have went into a different situation where they were ready to give him the guard spot by himself or shooting guard spot by himself. I just think you couple that potential issue with his potential shooting inefficiency concerns, and I just don't think that he'll end up winning our Rookie of the Year. He has as good enough talent to be as good as anybody in the league long term in this draft, but as far as me thinking he's going to out the gate just kill it, if he were projected to be a much better shooter, I'd say it's a better chance. Zachary Richardson looks interesting to me. He's having a good rookie season, but I'm concerned with his health because they didn't play him a whole lot in the preseason, and I wonder why that was. But in the moments they gave him, he looked pretty good. He was just listed as day-to-day in most of those games, and I don't know what that's about. It makes me wonder. Plus, I understand that he has some limitations off the dribble, which I don't think have really been exposed as of yet. Some of the limitations is still early, and throughout the course of a season, with the type of issues that he's said to have to work through, I think he'll ultimately have some weeks, some droughts where it'll be clear he won't be the guy for Rookie of the Year, in my opinion. If you can't create for yourself as a guard or as a forward, and you're a swing man, that's real tough. You know what I mean? That's what it really comes down to. Guys who really can't create for themselves, it's hard to view them in a way that polishes them up to be Rookie of the Year from that position. You see what I'm saying? It's like when you think about what a small forward is supposed to look like, we have so many Kobe T-Macs, so many Paul Georges, to where if you're a guy who catches the ball in the corner and you can't dribble your way out of that, even if you're playing so very well, it's going to be hard for people to convince themselves you're the Rookie of the Year when you have a certain deficiency like that, but this is the type of player build you are. So I just think that that's going to be a real thing for Zachary. I think he's a nice player. I'm big on him. I think he's going to be a fantastic off-ball player. We've talked about this. But as far as him winning Rookie of the Year, I think that could kind of get in the way. Just how people are going to view him once some of his weaknesses are exposed, if they are. So that's the thing. I don't bet he would be the Rookie of the Year. But he's as good a chance as anybody. It's not like he's a terrible bet in any way, shape, or form. The usage is okay. And I think he could potentially be one of the better players on the Hawks. Probably a top 5 option. So his chances are very solid. The guys in Washington, George and Bub Carrington, and of course Alexander Sarr, you got to look at them because they're on a bad team. They're probably going to be like top 6 option. All 3 of them are going to be a top 6 option on a bad team. So maybe one of them breaks out in some way. I wouldn't rule out Bub Carrington. I know he does have some limitations in the paint, laying the ball up and stuff like that. He's not really a great finisher, but around the perimeter, he's very efficient. He can make plays for others. He's a big guard, so he can probably rebound. The numbers will be up, is what I'm saying to you. And so this is one of those situations where I think he's going to be a decent bet to overachieve his expectations, to outplay the expectations is what I'm saying. I really do. I think Bub Carrington will probably be a top 10 rookie by the end of the season. I really believe that. Alex Sarr could be a good Rookie of the Year candidate. I think people have overstated his inefficiency issues in the summer league. He played a much better efficiency space in the preseason, and I just think that, for him, he has some real limitations too. He's going to have to get through some of the more traditional rookie wall issues that I think are going to come his way. He's a young rookie, you know what I mean? So we always say young rookies usually take more time to really showcase themselves to be fantastic players, even if they have fantastic ceilings. So I don't think Alex Sarr is probably my bet to win Rookie of the Year, even though so many people have been so high on him. I don't find myself saying that he's going to showcase himself in a way, in my opinion, that's going to make people think he's the best rookie of the season. Reed Sheppard is somebody people have to pay attention to. I think he has all the tools to be one of the best players in this draft. I think he's already considered one of the best players in this draft, but the situation, he's on the Rockets. And the problem with being on the Rockets with him is Fred VanVleet, Green, Cam Whitmore, all Brooks, all the different people that they have on the team that could potentially be playing his shooting guard position, point guard position. It's just so many different people. Amon Thompson. It just goes on and on and on to where he's going to have his minutes drawn back just by the presence of so many other guards. So that's my thing with him. I just don't think he can really rise to the top in such a way to separate himself from all of those supreme athletes. Even though he might be fundamentally and more efficiently better than a good portion of them, they're going to be able to do so much on the court with their athleticism and length that it's probably just going to eat away at his minutes in general. But he's one of the best players they got. He really is. Ain't no question about that. Reed Sheppard is legit. It's just about the opportunity and situation. And I just think he's going to be a bit more drowned out than most rookies, because he's going to be, even though he is pretty athletic for his size, he's going to be considered like the unathletic guy in the presence of the most supreme athletes in the world. That's what it looks like down there. That's exactly what that's going to look like. And then you got Fred VanVleet, who's like another version of him, ahead of him at the point guard spot, making $100+ million. So it's just hard to see Reed Sheppard getting more than 20 minutes a night. And even though in most situations he would probably be getting a lot more than that if he plays as good as most people think he's going to play. So I think he'd be a great Rookie of the Year candidate if he played in like Detroit or something like that, but that's not where he's at. Where else, man? Who else is in there? I think two people that people aren't really talking about for the Rookie of the Year candidacy that I think could be involved are Manas Buzelis from the Bulls and Ron Holland from the Detroit Pistons. I think those two players should be paid attention to, because Buzelis has already shown that he's a piece that can step above a lot of other guys. And even though the Bulls have some other guys, moving DeMar DeRozan out of the way puts Buzelis in a position to have a bit more usage than what would be expected. And some of their other stars are not in that small forward position, so he should be able to run. Patrick Williams kind of plays the 4. Vucevic plays the 5. Zach LaVine can play some 3, but plays the 2. Kobe White at the 1. So he's not really competing with too many guys. He's competing with Ayo Dosunmu, who I think is excellent, but Buzelis should project to be a better player. So Buzelis kind of has that small forward position kind of rounded in the form, and I give him about as good a chance as I give a guy like Reese Shea. They're kind of in the similar positions. Not really competing with too many people at their position to get the usage necessary to be showcased properly. So I like Buzelis for Rookie of the Year as a candidate there. And Ron Holland, because Ron Holland is in a situation where he's also not competing with too many people at his position. I think Amon Thompson could be considered a 3, but you can Asur, can be considered a 3, but he's in so many different other categories of what he can do. He could be 4. Holland could also play some 4. So they're a bit more interchangeable as it pertains to where you want to put both of those players. And given the fact that Asur is starting the season with the blood clot issues, I don't know how much time Asur is going to miss. Ron Holland can get out to a fast start. And I just don't think it's too much in the way of that. You look at a guy like Tobias Harris could potentially eat away at Ron Holland's minutes. But Tobias Harris has had such down years recently, and I don't know if Tobias Harris is going to play at a very high level, even though they gave him a lot of money. I don't know that he doesn't find himself being drowned out by somebody who's going to just outplay him. And I wouldn't be surprised if Ron Holland does that. One of the most athletic players in this draft. Somebody who's definitely going to play some defense around the perimeter. And if his 3-ball falls, which it should be able to, I think he's going to be a player that you look at and say good things about near the end of the season. He's an excellent athlete, which means I think he's a decent bet to be able to hold up throughout the course of an 82-game schedule. Some people, I've heard maybe 2 or 3 people say they thought he was the best player in this draft. So it's like when you consider the situation he's in, what complements him. He's not a shooter, but he should be able to hit some shots. They did bring in some shooting to make it so that his shooting, quote-unquote, deficiencies and anyone else's on that team isn't quite as glaring as it maybe would have been before this year. So I just think that he's in a position to where he can showcase himself as a breakout rookie right away and sustain that maybe as a better bet than a lot of other players in these situations. Another guy that I think is interesting for Rookie of the Year that I don't think nobody's talking about is Jalen Tyson in Cleveland. I don't think he'll actually outplay all of those people I've already mentioned, but you talk about a guy who's going to give you a lot of energy, probably going to be a double-double threat, probably going to do some things on the defensive end, and is going to have opportunities to play the small forward position enough to showcase himself as one of the better rookies. My thing with the Cleveland Cavaliers position, their small forward position is Isaac Okoro. They just paid him, if I'm not mistaken. He always hurt. The dude who I never remember his name when it's time to talk about him, which is kind of ridiculous how that keeps happening with the same names. But they have another small forward that just got hurt. The guy they got from Miami 2 years ago, they paid all that money. He just got hurt. He's going to start the season missing for 6 weeks. They do have another small forward that I like a lot that they drafted last year in the second round. He, from what I understand, he put on 30 pounds or something, 25 pounds. I wish homie's name would come to mind. I think he's an excellent player. I think they can play with one another. And the rest of their talent at the small forward position isn't going to push Jalen for minutes. And anywhere they otherwise would, you can move Jalen to the 4 when Mobley sits down if necessary. So I think Jalen Tyson's going to have a bit more usage, at least early in the season, than people would probably expect. I don't think Cleveland's in the greatest small forward way for themselves until you bring in Jalen Tyson. He's a highly impact player. Meanwhile, if I'm not mistaken, he played 4 years in college. I may be wrong about that, but he should be ready-made to contribute right away. And since they'll need him to, and he's a high energy guy, I think he's a decent bet to exceed all expectations. I think his game is wired to build stats, rebounds, scoring, steals. I just think he's going to be a guy that's going to have fantasy value rather quickly once the usage comes around. So, yeah, that's somebody I haven't picked up on any fantasy teams because I'm not certain about this. Obviously, there's other things that have to shake out. Health of other players that we've already neglected to provide names, but we know what they can do. Imani Bates is the guy that I was trying to figure out that added the weight, by the way. He's a guy that I think should be given more usage this year. He's somebody that I think is ready to play for the Cavaliers at that same position. So, but they can play together. Especially if Imani's put on all this weight. He's a long, tall player. He could probably play some forward too. They could probably both play some too if need be. So that's the thing. They're interchangeable players there for Cleveland. But just not great bets to stay healthy. So I think Jalen Tyson is going to be somebody who's going to immediately come in and eventually earn that starting spot, that shooting guard position, the small forward position. Because Okoro, like I said, Okoro just can't stay healthy, man. I don't find myself being a believer in Okoro like that. He's a nice player when healthy, but you're going to expect him to miss about 35 games a year. It just is what it is. So, yeah, that's not somebody I would have invested too much in, to be honest with you. If I were Cleveland, I don't know if I even re-sign him like that. Not at that price. So, yeah, man, Jalen Tyson, look out for him as a Rookie of the Year sleeper. Deep sleeper. Dalton Connect, I already made the case for Dalton. That's why I haven't mentioned him already. I actually think he's in the top 5 for opportunities, even though a lot of people don't agree with that. But as a Laker fan who follows this team and covers this team closely, I know damn well he's better than some of the dudes that he's supposed to be behind. I know he's better than the dudes. Real, like some of the ESPN people, they'll be like, well, He's behind Rui. He's behind Max Christie. No, he's not. He's slotted behind them today. He's better than those people, and we know it. Respect to my guys. They know I love them, but he's better than those people, bro. I'm telling you right now, Dalton Connect's probably the 4th most talented Laker on the team. 4th or 5th, right now. So it becomes a situation where his game then proves that we slot him up into maybe the 6-man role or the starting something role. And eventually he's a guy that you're looking at as the 2nd or 3rd most important scorer on the Lakers. And so that's what it really comes down to. I personally think he's a more reliable scorer than D'Lo. He's a more reliable scorer than Austin. He's a more reliable scorer than Rui. Like, I'm just being honest with y'all. He may not have other aspects of his game down pat in some of those other areas. But if we're using Max as much as we are, if we're using AD as much as we are, then his defenses of deficiency should not be as glaring as much as his offensive potency should be impactful. So for me, as someone who already believes he knows what Dalton can do, I'm already telling y'all before Dalton plays a single game with the Lakers in the regular season that he's likely our 5th best player right now. And so with that being said, that should push him up if he's able to make it through an 82-game schedule and plays enough games, he's going to move up in the conversation for Rookie of the Year. I think he moves up just automatically. So that's what I'm here to tell y'all, man. Excuse me, gentlemen. Excuse me. And so that's really what it comes down to for me. I genuinely believe that Dalton Connect is a top 5 candidate for being in the best position to win Rookie of the Year, and then furthermore being ready as a 4-year, 5-year guy for what is going to be asked of him as one of the most important players on the rookie on the Lakers, which is a team that's hoping to make the playoffs. So you look at all that, it's centered for him as long as if he can stay healthy, he's going to be in the mix. He should make the all-rookie team. He should make the all-rookie team. I'm telling you right now. And the fact that he's on the Lakers doesn't hurt that either, because, of course, people are going to vote for Lakers before they vote for a lot of other teams. It just is what it is. It is what it is. He's going to get votes for All-Star, too. He ain't going to make the All-Star team, but he's going to have votes just because he's a Laker. So, yeah, Dalton, I don't remember the last time a Laker won Rookie of the Year. Like somebody who actually won it in our uniform. And not since I've been watching the team. I don't think anyone has. You know, we got guys that have won it, of course, but not while they were on our team. What was it? I genuinely believe it was James Worthy. I think James Worthy was the last player to win the Rookie of the Year in a Laker uniform. So I wouldn't be surprised if the next one to do it is Dalton Connect. I don't think he's a terrible bet. I really don't. I don't think he's a terrible bet at all. There are some other guys that are really good bets. Another dark horse for Rookie of the Year. And see, this is the thing people have to understand about this rookie class. That it's not the greatest class means that there's a lot of parity amongst it. So it should be very difficult to get players without, having people snubbed. You know what I mean? As far as it pertains to the all rookie teams 1 and 2. There are going to be some people left off that deserve to be there because there's not too much of a difference between a lot of these guys. So another name that comes to mind that I really like for Rookie of the Year as a dark horse is Rob Dillingham, Minnesota. And the reason why I feel that is because they need a starting point guard. He is supremely talented. Scoring the ball, being shifty. He can run up points very, very quickly. He's a fairly efficient three-point shooter on a consistent basis with high volume. And he's going to be on a winning team. And when you look at what they got going on from their point guard position, it's an older guy in, what's my man's name? I can't think of his name, from Memphis back in the day. Mike Conley Jr. And after that, they may have another guy in between that's not coming to mind. But most of the talent in Minnesota is in other positions, not the point guard position. That's why I believe they traded up for Rob Dillingham with the intention of him either being the sixth man of the year every year or stepping into their starting point guard position to usurp Mike Conley. Mike Conley's what, 36? Something like that? 37? I think it's probably time for Mike Conley to take a step backwards. And now, if he doesn't do it this year, it'll probably be next year or whatever. But if he does it this year and Dillingham displays the talent that I know he has, then he's a Rookie of the Year candidate. Because the usage is going to be there. The impact is definitely going to be there in a winning situation. And he's a spectacular watch. He's going to be fun to watch. So I don't know if the usage will be there. There are other talented players that are on this team. But with the addition of DiVincenzo, who, while you may think will take away some minutes from Dillingham, I think actually makes it so that the pace plays a bit more like Dillingham would want it to. Julius Randle, those guys are going to be in the open court pushing pace. I can see them being on the floor with Dillingham and making him better and helping him defensively if they're able to be defensive minded, particularly DiVincenzo, not necessarily Julius Randle, but DiVincenzo is known for doing some good things on the defensive end. I think that the legitimacy to a Rob Dillingham Rookie of the Year race type of movement is going to be about pace. Pace. Because if they're playing at a faster pace than what they would have if they had Karl Anthony Towns kind of slowing things down the half court, you can see a situation where if he does usurp Mike Conley, they're running, and he's going to be a recipient of a lot of good things in those situations and the creator of a lot of plays that ultimately are going to be fast breaks and stuff like that. Sort of like Reed Shepherd, similar role. Surrounded by so many athletes that are going to be catching lobs and making so many threats happen that he's going to be able to create. So I like that for him. His teammates, Terrence Shannon, I don't know if he's going to have the usage because there's so many guys at that small forward position. I just don't know that Terrence Shannon's going to get as many minutes as he's going to be ready for. He's going to be more ready than he's probably going to get opportunities for, especially if Josh Minott is going to break out, which it looks like he is. But for me, I like Dillingham getting the opportunity to really showcase himself on a winning team. And that tells the story a lot of times for these type of individual awards. So that's really what my thought is, man. I probably got some more to say, but I'm where I need to be. So I'll give it some more thought and maybe make another video on the same type of thing. But it's a lot of people that's going to be fighting for that Rookie of the Year. This ain't going to be an easy one this year. Video 44. I thank y'all for watching.